Good morning, everybody. I'm going to admit people as we go, but guys, we're so excited today to have Natasha McCrary here from 1818 Farms. We are thrilled to have her. Lauren follows her so closely because, Lauren wants a farm. And so I was telling Natasha that I was so sad that Lauren wasn't here today, but her daughter is graduating from sixth grade, so is moving on into the junior high, but so they are participating in that this morning, so it'll just be me. But Natasha I've just so enjoyed already getting to know you and hearing more about 1818 Farms. They do everything from creating their own bath products from all natural ingredients that are sourced right there on their farm, to having classes and workshops and flower trucks, and you're from seed to vase, which helps people learn how to plant their own flower garden. So y'all are doing so many really cool and interesting things. So I cannot wait to hear more this morning. So Natasha, why don't you just start off and tell us a little bit about you and your family and your farm and how it all got started.
Oh, well, thanks for having me today, Emily. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, it's hard to believe we're coming up on 10 years. I mean, I'm shocked. What I thought, when I started this, it was really more of a family building experience, really to teach our children about how to start a business. I'd never really dreamed this is where I would be. It's funny how in business you take twists and turns, and this is where we are today. But really, I wanted our children to see how you could develop a business plan, implement it, and how to be successful. And a lot of that, I feel like people today, a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to own your own business and how much work goes into it. And I think that's a great teaching aspect for our children. When we started, we were just going to be more of an agritourism destination, and we were going to teach people how to have a raised bed garden, how to raise backyard chickens, a lot of educational field trips for children, because what we saw were most children, they've never petted a pig. They've only seen a lot of these animals in storybooks, even in today, or maybe at a zoo, but to be able to touch an animal. And so everything we did in the beginning was really about education. And as we've grown, we still, in some ways, it's still about education. Like, let's say in the bath line, we try to use simple ingredients that really work, and we really promote not using preservatives. So that's an education. Even though it's a product, we're educating customers about what you put on your skin is important. The seed to vase, we're trying to really make people comfortable planting their own gardens and harvesting and arranging flowers. For our sheep shearing, the sheep, we're trying to talk about the wool and it really telling them how you can be sustainable and creating a product with that. So everything we do, there's an education component of it. And it's just been a great experience, I think, for myself and our kids.
I love looking at it. I love how it started off as a project to help teach your children. I know, like, just Lauren and I building the Wealth Edit and having our girls along for the ride. I mean, we've all learned so much, and it's really important, I think, especially in the lives of an entrepreneur. And one of the things I think is like one of the greatest perks is that you can include your kids in on like what you're doing and why you're doing it, and teaching them like the importance of education and educating them on why you need to educate. So I love hearing that. So before the business plan and before that decision, were y'all actively farming already, or
No,
like,
we
has that
weren't.
always been an ongoing thing with your family?
No, my husband's family has always large crop farm, but we weren't involved with that. I grew up around just an avid gardener. And like when I say avid gardener, like you grew all your food and you canned it and you preserved it, and that's what you ate through the winter. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like you just had a little garden, kind of like I do a raised bed here and we just
Yeah.
eat through the summer.
Right.
It was like you preserve your food, I mean, for the year. So at that time, I probably didn't realize what I was absorbing and learning. Any child probably doesn't think it's that much fun to, shuck so many hundred ears of corn and it's 1,000,000 degrees, or shell those peas. So I had absorbed probably a lot more of that. Before I was in, my degrees in marketing, and but before that, I did pharmaceutical sales. I was a computer programmer right out of college. And then I started a nonprofit here in Huntsville where we fed about 25,000 meals to kids who were in Title I schools while I was the director of that. And then the children were all going to school, and I stayed at home until I was doing the nonprofit, but then I was ready to make that next step. I wanted to do a little bit more than be a stay-at-home mom. And I thought this is a great way to teach the children, through starting the business.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have this idea, and I mean, a lot of us and a lot of our members have been in a similar situation. I know I have, where I feel like I had the opportunity to stay at home with my girls for a period while they were young. And I know that is a huge blessing, but just kind of like what you were talking about, also felt this, urge to start doing something else. And how did that process look like? Because I know a lot of people feel that, but don't know how to work through that decision.
Yes, I think the first thing I recommend to people is, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need to find something you're passionate about, because if you're not passionate about it, you can't. I think it's going to be very difficult for you to have the drive that it is required to build a successful business. So you need to be all in. And I've always loved the gardening and education and animals. So that was the first step. And there were so many steps in our process, a little bit different than if you open a brick and mortar, and that we had to, let's just say, just the beginning, before we could even open, we had to find the land. We had to clear where we're landlocked with the Wheeler Wildlife Refuge, and it had encroached in the land. We had to clear the land. We had to build paddocks for rotational grazing. We had to amend the soil. There's so many different things that we did, but there's a lot of that. And the key thing you got to be thinking about is, do I have the funds to support this? Because, building fencing, adding a bathroom in a barn, adding a garden house pavilion, that takes money. Mm-hmm. And you need to think about, how can I pay for this? And then how can I pay myself back, or, pay the loan to yourself. Right. If you're using your own, we use our own savings for this. So, and this is one of the things you and I were talking about. I think that when you are starting a business, now I was saying you need to be passionate about it, but any business you start, you need to make sure there is a need for that. Mm-hmm. So I knew agritourism, like, there wasn't really anything near us. You had to go maybe into Florence, there was somewhere, maybe on the other side of Huntsville, there was something there. You also, anytime you're starting a business, you need to make sure that there's a need for this, because business is saturated. And I think that's one of the things that I hear when women contact me about starting a business, is I say, have you really done an assessment? Is there a need for this? Mm-hmm. Because if there's not a need for it, you could be setting yourself up for failure. And I hate for anyone to do that, So that's kind of my first step, as we saw there was a need. Not only was I passionate about it, but there was a need. Mm-hmm. for this. The way the products came about is, the first year we grew a lot of lavender, so maybe like 200 plants, and we sold it at farmers markets, and along with our produce. We were primarily produce at that time. And that's the way of the farmers markets, is a baby step of marketing to me. There's no better way to get yourself out there, as you're the face of your company, is to get in front of customers. And then from there, they learn about you. And social media is so important in building your brand. But you've got to get out there and get your face out there once you've established there is a need. But what happened is, I'm a business person. My husband's a business person. Once in our growing area, once you hit November, there's no more produce to sell. So I had to come up with another revenue stream. So I thought, what could I use with the raw materials I have on hand? What kind of product could I create that people might enjoy, or there's a need for? Mm-hmm. And really, all the bath products that we've developed over the years is from a need for myself. So I think of something, I couldn't find a good cuticle balm. My hands, I don't like to wear gardening gloves, and they're always horrible. I mean, I shouldn't even show y'all because they look so bad. I scrubbed them really hard last night. And, I needed that. I'm always sore from we do a lot of manual work here, and I needed a bath soap that would help with that. So everything that we've created, there was an internal need for me personally for a product that I couldn't find that was simple and really worked. And that's how kind of the products come about.
I love using yourself as your test market. I mean, I think Lauren and I say that again, there's a lot of similarities here because like we wanted this community for ourselves. And so we decided we're going to build it, and as we walk through it, oftentimes, the next things that come out of like our offerings are things that we want, that we want to do too. So, all right, so you are come up with this new product line, and one of the things that I think is just so noteworthy about your product is the branding. I love the lamb. So, did you use your marketing background to create the branding?
Yes, I did, and that's really come in handy. Although I think when we were talking a little bit in the pre-call, what marketing was that I have a degree in and what marketing is today, they're polar. It's apples and oranges. It's not even apples and oranges. We should go totally, different than what we learned, but totally use that. And that was, I saw how much people love the animals and they love the farm and they connected with them through social media. And I thought, what's a better way than to make the cover guy or cover girl who's like the mascot of the product, on the product. So we tell a little story like Farrah Fawcett, our naughty goat. You have your lavender goat's milk bath tea, and it's a goat's milk product. Or we have our lambs have so much lanolin, so we say for lamb soft skin, use our shea cream. So not every product has an animal, but we try to tie those main ones back into there. And it's really funny the way it's developed, the product's developed, and then the animal is tied to it. I can't do it. I don't work in reverse like that. Usually and that comes down into, I think, just the advertising mindset of making that connection. And my mother-in-law is a very talented artist. So she does all the little pencil sketches for us. Yeah. So that's been lucky for us that we have somebody in-house who can do the drawings. But I think that's, a lot of people want to live on a farm, but they can't. And this gives them a way to not only follow the animals on social media, but have a cute, little product that has their sweet faces on there.
Yeah. And so often, one of the things that I've learned over the last couple of years about as we've like really done a deep dive into marketing and what that looks like is that I am one that I buy with my eyes. And so if I like the sketch or if I like what the product looks like, I'm so much more likely to try that over something else that's next to it that's not quite so pretty. So you've got this beautiful product with this beautiful packaging, awesome branding, and then also I think what's noteworthy about 1818 Farms is that and I've kind of gone back and watched some of your YouTube videos and your stories. They're telling a story. And so was that, I think we've struggled with that sometimes, like I do because as being an attorney, I didn't think that way, like in my marketing, but now I see like the people that I want to follow on Instagram or on social media are telling a story. I see Krista on here on the call too. And she's one that I've talked to about this a lot because I think as people try to like strategize on how they want to market, like telling the story is a really important part.
Yes, because I think the most important thing you need to think about in your business and when you tell a story is representing authenticity. Like people know when they see our social feed or they see me on YouTube where I've had to get my hair combed and try and clean up from being at the farm, that it's authentically me and they're there. People are visual learners. I think that's another thing is we were talking about this. I feel like the years of blog are really down because people don't have that attention span. They want the phone in their hand and they want to quickly be able to scroll and it has to catch their attention. And you telling a story is what's going to catch their attention and make them not, swipe the rest of the way. So I think that's one of the most important aspects is being a great storyteller. And for us, now I know this is different for you guys who are on there. For us, we have to control our social media. And that's there's no way for me to plan out a month in advance a social timeline because I honestly have no idea what's going to happen the next day. Like, I don't know the sheep's going to do something funny, or I don't know I'm going to be harvesting this flower, or I don't know I'm going to see this praying mantis. I mean, there's really no way for us to do that. But I think that helps us organically grow, and that people want to tune in and say, what's happening today? And that's what you want to have a connection with your customer and make them, I like to look at our followers. There's so many followers. I remember when we started out years ago that I feel like I could just go to their house. Like I could just, you know what I'm saying? They've been there. I wouldn't know their face if I saw a lot of them, but I feel like if I was in any state and I was there, I could just say, hey, can I come over and visit? Because you've gotten to know them through the years.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to great storytelling and then being authentic and presenting your brand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the people that are willing to like share their lives on a day-to-day basis, even if it doesn't fit like that perfect marketing grid or whatever, people, like you said, are drawn to the authenticity of that and just saying like, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, but we're here.
Well, the interesting thing is, if any of y'all follow us, like a few weeks ago, I posted this picture of a broken butter knife. Like it was I was so sad. It was the worst day. We plant 11,000 flowers with these, we use little butter knives, and I've had this one for years, and it broke in half, and it fits in my hand perfectly. It was a like 1928 silver plate knife, and that was one of our most responded to posts ever. Like I was just posting it to say, look how sad I am. This is the worst thing ever. I had another butter knife I had put duct tape around to try and make it fit my hand. My hand was hurting, and I received, I think, 12 replacement identical knives from people all over the country who shipped those to me.
Oh,
and it was, they saw that, and it's something, sometimes you think that's so simple, yet I was telling the story of how this is planted hundreds of thousands of seedlings and plants and what it meant to me. I just thought it was interesting. And then here it is that I get the exact knife. So you never know. Sometimes things you think aren't that important, it resonates with people.
Yeah. Well, because we all have those little like sad things that happen throughout the weeks that to others may not seem like a big deal, but for us,
this was terrible. When this was terrible, and we were just planting, and it was, it just broke right in half. So
yeah,
I had overworked her.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so shifting gears a little bit, and I'm really kind of asking because I'm actually really curious about this. So y'all have also built up a really strong YouTube following. And how did that decision go? And how do y'all, like when you're filming, are you doing it yourself? Have you hired somebody to help you with that?
Yeah. So really we had a YouTube channel for a couple years. Just, we would put like a little bit of sheep shearing or maybe a drone shot of the garden, but we hadn't really, it takes, let me preface this. It takes a lot of time to have a YouTube channel and to do it right. And we really need a new video up right now. We do everything in-house. So my husband films and edits. Luckily, he's extremely talented in that. I say it's like he's Clint Eastwood. When it's time to go make this video, he wants me to be ready to go. Yeah. So he does that. And it really, with COVID, because we couldn't be open, we were like, what can we offer? Like, let's talk about, we were open minimally, like as far as very small groups, but what could we do that could go into the homes of people, that usually come visit the farm? And it just sort of took off as far as like how to prepare your vessel for an arrangement, how we prepare the gardens, hoof trimming a sheep. We just went through things we do on a daily basis that we thought could be interesting to others. And it's really exceeded our expectations. It's something that I think, will hopefully grow from here, but there's also a need, and it goes back to the visual learners. We really try and put things up that are, everything is educational. Even in a product unboxing, we're trying to really educate what's important about the product. So we break it into sections. There's like a business product section, there's a gardening section, and there's an animal section. And so we'll be out in the garden a lot more once it's blooming. Now like we'll do netting coming up. So you're just kind of find things that we do daily that we think people, will enjoy. So it's been really great and a wonderful way to connect with, people who we might not have found on Instagram or Facebook, that found us through YouTube because they were searching for a specific topic.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that y'all use Instagram a lot. You use YouTube. Now you also won Amazon's women's owned small business of the Year award.
Yes.
Tell us about your experience building your Amazon store.
Yeah, it's been great because we sell on a couple of different platforms. We have the wholesale accounts that are, brick and mortar stores.
Mm-hmm.
Then we sell on 1818farms.com and we sell on Etsy. And then a few years ago, Amazon is, especially for the younger generation, they purchase everything on Amazon. So you really need to have a presence on there. And you, as a wholesaler, you have to be very careful in protecting your brand. And that we really were trying to think about how could we get involved with Amazon. There is a portion of Amazon called Amazon Handmade, and it's very much a juried and a juried collection of makers. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty intensive to be accepted. So you have to talk about your workspace. You have to talk about production. You send photographs. And we thought that was a great way to represent our products. So our full line isn't on there. It's only what we hand make. And like, let's say we have these adorable, I think behind me, we see a little baby onesie up there. Even though that's our artwork, we don't physically print it on the onesie. So that can't be on there, but it's more the things that every aspect we touch, making that product. And it's just been a great way to reach other customers. And we've seen continued growth year after year. And they're such a great supportive, the handmade. I think what people don't realize, about 50% of the businesses on Amazon are small businesses. And, we aren't fulfilled by Amazon, like we do all the fulfilling ourselves, but it's been just a great way to get your name out there. And we visited the headquarters last year, right prior to COVID, as part of our award, and met with just their marketing team. And it was people from all over the world. And that's really, in any business, I call it not putting your eggs all in one basket, like the old saying is, we're trying to really diversify. And if we hadn't done that during COVID, like let's say your revenue is 50% wholesalers, 50% online. Well, when COVID hit, all the stores closed. So it went to $0. Mm-hmm. But luckily we had our online store, we had Etsy, we had Amazon. So that's also a thing to be thinking about as you're opening a business, is how can I diversify and, always have a website. I tell flower farmers, the biggest mistake I hear from flower farmers who contact me that are new is they don't have a website. I mean, you've got to be able to accept payments. Even if you're a flower farmer and you think you're going to the farmer's market, you need to be able to be smart and take pre-orders. Mm-hmm. You need to have, FAQs. So that's something we see with any business, is don't just put your eggs in one basket. You need to be really diversified in that part of your business model.
Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about, owning a small business, being an entrepreneur is hard, because if you're constantly striving to better yourself. And if you stop doing that, you don't grow. And so it's not like, it's hard to get to a place where you're like, oh, now I can just sit back and enjoy the fruits of my labor. I mean, it's a constant.
That never happens. If anyone thinks that happens, y'all do not open your own business. And that's the thing, like, especially as a company who develops products and wholesales them, our wholesale accounts, the first thing that's going to be out of their mouth when we're in Atlanta at market is what's new. It's always what's new. Mm-hmm. So our mind is always thinking, and you can't just develop a product in 2 weeks. I mean, that takes months to years to develop products. And even for us, we have to think about the way we ship a product. When we first started, our products are preservative free and they melt if it's over 72 to 76 degrees. So we have to ship in an insulated cooler with an ice pack. So we had to find the best type of packaging for that. And then we had to test the packaging, and then you need to ship it and make sure it holds. I mean, there's so many different things that you have to be thinking about in the business. And, it's just, if you've got to be thinking about that next product. Even with flower farming, we're thinking about what's the new flower we haven't grown. I mean, there's always, what can we do differently? Like, we started our seed business last year as a way to do extended revenue stream. And we really went heavily in dried flowers, because we're looking at how, on that aspect of the business, can we have a revenue stream 12 months a year? So yeah, there's always something new.
Yeah, always something new. So speaking of, when will the new products be unveiled?
Okay, the new products will be unveiled in July at market. There's a couple of things we have in production. So even a lot of things, like there's one new product we started working on in December, and to get the product in hand it's, something so cute. It will be probably September. That's how long, just the production timeline.
Yeah.
And then we're still testing another product and working on the labeling. And then the newest thing that we launched, which will be at market, which isn't a secret anymore, that was a secret for a long time, are our Botanical Wax Sachets. And that was probably one of the most products I'm most proud of from all the years, is because my goal was to develop a product that tied every aspect of the business together. And that's very hard to do. And these beautiful Botanical Wax Sachets are a mixture of beeswax and soy wax, and they have a fragrance. But the way we pour them, we put the dried botanicals, they're placed almost like a piece of art. But then the way we hang them for your closet or your space is our sheep's wool that's been spun, and it's a little hanger. So that may be the only product we can ever tie everything together, because it's really hard, but that's been wonderful, because then everyone that works for us has buy-in for this product. There's so many different people touching that part. And that's, that was a goal of mine from the beginning. It just took almost 10 years to come up with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so it's clear that you have that creative side of your brain going at all times, but you also seem to really have a good handle on the finances and the business side of your business. Did you come into the business thinking that you were going to handle that, or was that something that has happened over time?
Well, luckily for me, my husband has an MBA in finance, and so he is our CFO, and we work beautifully together. And I feel like you have to be always aware of the finances, because, especially for us, like, let's say right now we're waiting on an order of 30,000 empty jars. We may not be finished with those jars, but you've got to plan out, how am I going to pay for those jars? So even me, we're always worried, I'm always worrying about cash flow, because the difference with our business is so much inventory at the beginning that you're sitting on, that you're not using, because we're making the products, we're artisans. But luckily for me, I have a good understanding of that, but I'm even luckier because my husband has a great understanding of that. So he handles the wholesale, just handling, we have around 500 retailers, handling that, just managing our map and the finances with our wholesalers. And then you're going to have, payroll, like we do payroll. So, there's so much behind the scenes, but you have to have an understanding of finance, I think, to be successful, because you don't want to be depending on someone that you can't always trust.
Well, I love that y'all work together, and it seems like you're a really great partnership. And it's so nice. Sometimes I tell people, I used to work with my husband, and it was like one of the best things that we ever did. I loved being there together, working towards a common goal. So that sounds like a real blessing that you have to be a part. And it sounds like he also does a really great job of teaching you.
Yes, he's great. He's great. And, he's good to we always have we're always thinking forward of, where do we want to be in 5 years? Where, not just where do we want to be in 3 months. At this part in our business, we need to be thinking long-term. We're in the process of moving facilities to a larger facility, and that took planning. For years of just, designing what we want. And then with COVID, it's taken forever. We were supposed to be in there last October, so we're still waiting to move. So you have to be thinking about those things, what's the future hold, and what are your goals? And, we work really well together. So I'm very blessed.
Yeah. Okay. So the last question of the morning, we always end our interviews asking the question of, like, why did you say yes to the Wealth Edit this morning?
Yeah, I am a big believer, and this goes with anything that I do, flower farming, supporting any forum that I can become involved with that's supporting other entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs, because I think we need all the support we can get. And that really intrigued me. Your platform did, because it's okay to not know everything. But what's great is to be able to facilitate relationships where you're a mentor, or maybe someone else has a better answer. And any time that I can give back, because I know so much more than I knew 10 years ago, I try to always be available for people, and hopefully something I offer maybe sparks someone's curiosity or it motivates them. So I was honored to be able to be a guest, and just hope that something I have said or do inspired them to chase their dreams.
Well, Natasha, thank you so much for being here. If people want to find, what is your website so they can look it up, and your Instagram?
Sure. It's just 1818farms.com. The number is 1818farms.com.
Okay. Well, thank you, Natasha. We appreciate you being here and look forward to hopefully coming up there one day soon and things get back to normal and do a workshop. I love that.
Yes, I'd love that. Thank you for having me today, Emily.
Thanks, Natasha. Bye.
Bye-bye.